Welcome to Ivy League Road, where you'll get tips and advice on how to strategically position your middle and high school student for admissions to the college of their dreams. Formerly the How to Homeschool podcast, we still have the same great content. We're simply expanding on how to position your middle and high school student using a combination of homeschooling and or truly meaningful outside activities, how to put that strategic plan together, why it's important, and how to execute this plan for your child's success. Are you ready to dive in? Let's go. Hi, this is Judy Sardin, and I am here today with Barbara D'Antonio Phillips. She is the owner of BD Consulting and also the Windward Swim and Tennis Club here in Atlanta. And Barbara's going to talk to you about why it's important to plan. And she's got her own experience with her own children, but Barbara has a wealth of experience with student athletes and students who are not athletes and just kind of the middle school, high school aged kids. And she's seen it all really. And so she's going to just share with you today how important planning is and really thinking about your future, not waiting until the 11th and 12th grade year, because at that point it's kind of too late. You can still kind of do some things, but really you need to plan ahead of time. So I'm going to let Barbara introduce herself, and then just, Barbara, tell us what your experience is, even with your own children, and how you started planning well ahead of 11th and 12th grade.
Yes. So, hi, everyone. And I'm sure, it's a great platform to be sharing energy and knowledge with Judy. I'll just give a little bit of a history. I'm originally from South America, but was raised in New York. And our family moved to Alpharetta, Georgia about 2 years ago. And we came here for my youngest two sons' tennis training. My children have been homeschooling since their primary academic years. In total, I've homeschooled my eldest two for 7 years and my youngest for almost his entire lifetime. Just maybe a couple of years did he spend in school. And we primarily homeschooled because of the needs that were necessary to give them an opportunity to pursue being a full-time junior pro tennis player. Mm-hmm. And in the process of that, I was also tennis director and academy director for our organization here in Alpharetta, Georgia. And I was willing to speak to you about what my experience has been and how I really managed the ability to give our children an opportunity to maximize their virtual online schooling while also trying to round out who they were and how they could identify themselves in that process.
Awesome. Perfect. So just tell us, I know you've got two who have already graduated.
So my eldest two played tennis since they were very young. And as we were moving to Georgia, my eldest was a senior and had started applying to West Point, but had stopped playing tennis in his sophomore year. And what was very flexible and agile for us as a family is even though he had stopped playing tennis full-time, he did not segue back into a brick and mortar educational experience. He really wanted to continue virtually. But we were able to really modify his identity because it is a big break for a young student to decide to step away from an identity that they were curating for so many years and thinking that that was going to be their gateway entry of presentation into a college application, and then decide, how can I evolve myself and present myself and have a story about who I am when I'm on the other side of the interview table in senior year. And it was even more challenging because we moved from New Jersey, a very liberal state, to one of the most conservative states and most competitive districts in the country to apply to West Point. Now, my son's journey and how our philosophy always has been, always find an opportunity with every challenge, always find a path that is a journey that will help you explore who you are. And when you think doors close, when you think challenges come your way, it's because it's meant for you to look at things from a different framework. It's to dig deeper or grow wider and see where's the opportunity and advantage in that element. And so my son had switched from being a tennis player to being a boxer and had been training in New Jersey. And when we came here to Alpharetta, Georgia, it was almost being in a boxing mecca opportunity and framework. And we found this incredible little boxing location near Norcross, which is where we lived originally. And this teacher was a person who was able to connect with the boxing coach, head boxing coach at West Point. And made this incredible introduction to my son. And what ended up happening was opening on this whole portal of a greater opportunity to actually access West Point, find out about its admissions process, even though it was the most competitive area in the country. And my son ended up receiving a West Point AOG sponsorship, which meant that he just needed to be in a civil prep school for a year, which was even more amazing for us, because you would think a student would be very disappointed not getting direct admit. But we were happy because we wanted him to have a year of transition into a brick and mortar environment before going into the competitive area. So that worked out amazingly well, even though he was begrudging the fact that it was one of the most competitive experiences in his life. Then my second son actually stopped playing when he came to Alpharetta, Georgia. He explored the Southern system, didn't like it. It's very deep. It was very challenging. And he just fell out of love with the sport. This was in sophomore year.
Wow.
So yes, this was actually junior year, but we were segueing away from sophomore year. Huge break. How can a child all of a sudden decide, I'm changing my story, I'm going to move away from it? And his passion was flying. And we had just lost my father to cancer about 6 months before I really came to join my children, because they were living here 6 months prior. And he shared the love of flying with my dad and took his first flight lesson with him. And we found, unbeknownst to us, an amazing flight school in Chambly, right outside of Navsha, and fell in love within a year, was able to get his pilot's license. And now he has just recently been accepted into a Falcon scholarship with the U.S. Air Force, and will also be going to the same military prep school, which ironically so is only about 3 hours away in Alabama. So let's say we lived in New Jersey, New York, my children would be living very far away from us during this time period. So the whole point of that is, even though you may have a plan, and this is something that we'll cover a little bit in our conversation, Judy, that since they're formative years, and I'm talking formative and middle school years, you want to be able to allow your child to dream, and you want to be able to have your child create what I called as a storyboard. You know, we do that in marketing, we do that in companies. You have to have a vision. You have to have the law of attraction of what do you want yourself to be? What do you want? You encourage your child to pursue. You know their strengths, their weaknesses. Where can you always find a way to give them the opportunity to have a mindset that is open to challenges and to doors closing and then reopening in another way? And that's exactly what I lived with my eldest to. We had a storyboard idea of how they would present themselves in a competitive athletic framework as they were engaging in their college applications. And we were able to be agile, as I mentioned before, and shift into a different pathway by being able to take the storyboard they had created. And I would do a storyboard based on where they thought they could be with potential grades academically, not everything has to be an A, where they potentially could be with their own hobbies, where is their passion, and where they potentially wanted to be in their next learning institution. What kind of people do they want to surround themselves with? What kind of teachers do they want to have? What kind of philosophy do the colleges have? Because you come out as an adult, and that last educational framework shapes you into the adult you will be, will shape your thinking, will shape your voting patterns, will shape your moral compass. And it was very easy for us to transition. Challenging, of course, because nothing is easy in the application process, but you want your child to feel the trials and tribulations are something that feed back into who they are and the balance of who they are as a young person. And with my third son, he wants to be a pro tennis player. Now, his storyboard, quite a little bit differently, correct? Yeah. Focus has to be different. It's an ever-changing balance. And so he's in 8th grade, and we've created a separate storyboard for him. We don't know if that's going to end up his dream or will it be his reach and access, but I do have to give him the ability to write that story now, see if he can live it and love it, as I say, arrive there, and then be flexible enough to change and appreciate who he is when he gets to that year, and is really that the next stepping stone for him as a young person.
Now, what I love about everything that you've said, actually, I love a lot of what you said, but a couple of things I want to point out. First off, you talked about being agile, and you were looking at the end game because, I was a contract lawyer before. And so we're always looking at the end game, and every little move that you make, every little change that you make to a contract is all strategically set to achieve that end game. And so, I'm big on strategy. So you're looking at the end game and you're setting your storyboard based on writing your story for the end game. And so it looks like you're looking at it every year and you're planning for the end game, but you also realize that it may change like it did with both of your older boys. And it's not a failure. It's not oh my gosh, I spent all this time and money helping you do this one thing, so you've got to stick with it. It's how can we rewrite the story? How can we reposition?
Absolutely. And this is what I would suggest. And I'm taking from a couple of points that you're elevating, to the discussion. Life will never give you what you expect. Most of the time, or maybe some of the time. But that doesn't limit your ability as a family and your ability as a parent to help your child to dream and to help your child to learn how to strategize. If we can do anything in life, is to teach our children to be strategists, to find adversity and to take the adversity and turn it into an opportunity. That is really the best gift that we can give our children. Now, why do I think storyboards are important? Because when you put on paper and when you create that mission statement, that vision, all companies do this, correct? You will never move forward in an organization if you don't have that vision and mission statement. And as a family, we are a small organization. We're a small construct of energies, dreams, goals, and paths. So I've always taken my corporate training, my consultant training, and infused it into my raising of the children. So when you have that storyboard, put your dreams out there on paper. Let the universe know that you're exploring. I really feel very spiritual about that because it gives your child a raison d'etre beyond what they have to do on a daily basis to get from point A to point B. So when you create that storyboard, now you're opening the opportunity to find passion. Passion is very important in a child. What do they want to do? What do they want to explore? I've always opted to expose my children to almost everything. A lot of times, much to their criticism, because I was raised in the arts. So I was raised with a father who sang opera in 6 languages. I was raised as a ballet dancer. I went to museums. I only saw foreign films. I was not raised in our American culture, even though my father was Italian-American. I was raised almost a little bit of an outlier in Manhattan. So my children went to see an opera at age 3. That was their starter opera, La Bohème. We went to every museum. It was just how I infused my adoration for culture onto them. And they studied art since they were very young, the guitar since they were very young. And were they masters of all those trades? No. But as I saw them grow up, my eldest stopped the guitar a year ago. I'm not proficient. I will not pursue this anymore. But when I come back to when I'm 25 and I have time for it. But my youngest 2 have actually started their own band and took it upon themselves to restudy the guitar again, despite the fact that I would continue with FaceTime lessons with our guitar teacher from Germany in New York City. This is how devoted I am to the arts. And why do I mention this? Because passion comes in different elements. It's not just a passion for a career you will choose. It's a passion for yourself, talents that you have, because those are the things that keep company with you. Those are the things that comfort you and you can be drawn to. And when you do that, you allow your child to understand that not everything revolves around the construct of academics and where am I going to go to school. They want to be balanced, and you want them to be balanced because when you make a college choice, it's entering into a world that will be your community and that will be your child's community, and trying to instill upon your child's mental framework that they're choosing and shopping around as much as a school is shopping for students. So colleges put together classes, correct? The class of 2024, the class of 2025, based on the kaleidoscope of culture, population, philosophy, and what their community wants to accomplish. That's how they choose the children.
Yes.
Your child should take the time.
I want to interrupt you there for a second so that people understand that. Let's repeat that. They're not just looking at grades and test scores.
No. Think about a university, right? A university is a business. A university has its vision, and it has its mission, it has its brand, and it has its pathway. And the way that it grows is by developing each graduating year into alumni that will give back to the institution and continue building their brand. Just think about that. It's a very powerful statement, and that's what I've always explained to my children.
Absolutely.
Colleges are a for-profit organization. They bring in a pool of students because they know those students will fit into their culture, will buy their shirts, will buy their caps, will buy their tickets to fit into the sports seats, and will be teachable to the philosophies that that institution surrounds themselves with. We know institutions sit to the left, sit to the right. They curate their curriculum, they have their specialty, and you're going to get an output, which is our adult, our child who is now an adult and who has a thought processes as to how they want to contribute to society and to their communities. Very important to understand. College is just that.
Yes.
And if they can maximize on that experience, they will find the career, or I really think our children will find 3 or 4 careers to work through in their lifetime, because they will be working by choice until their 80s. We're getting younger and younger every year. Look at us. We're in our 50s and we reinvent ourselves, right?
Yes.
I tell my children, you're going to have 3 or 4 careers as a young male. You won't reach your peak in career at age 45 and retire at 65 with your gold clock anymore. That's not happening. So you have to anticipate to have 3 or 4 careers and maybe start something when you're in your 80s.
Yes.
If you want to. So we need to prepare our children for that legacy of a lifetime. And the best thing you can do is to create an inquisitive young person who can appreciate as many passions in their lives and look at the college experience as something that is of their choice, that they could prime themselves to have options.
Yes.
And not all those options are defined by the way they think they should be. So, for example, in our tennis academy, we have little tennis students who have dreams to be a tennis player on a team. And of course, everyone wants to play for a Division I team, right? It's the best team.
Yes.
But not everyone's skill set will be linearly acquired, and they will play Division I. So what happens is their reality of, oh my goodness, I only really belong in a Division III because that's where my aptitude is. But is that the end of the world? Does that mean that all those years of playing tennis, of practicing, of the sacrifice, of the travel, of the wins and the losses defines you as a failure? No, it just means that out of all the pool of opportunities, this is the best place you can be. And then you still have a choice. You can decide if you want to definitely play tennis, be on that team because that's what's going to make the joy of being in school. Then you have your choice of Division III, and that's where you're going to grow. That's where you're going to get the best experience possible. Or will you change your opportunity and use your gateway, your academics, and then have a choice? You have a choice to play on the team, but your academics leads the way. It's always positive for a child to think in a strategic fashion and for a parent to lead them that way, because everything can be a win-win. And you understand that your win-win is not always defined the way that your limited mind frame creates it.
Now, I like one of the things that, you are a bit of a free spirit. And that's what I love about you and the way that you think. And obviously it's, you are a product of how you were raised. You've homeschooled your children, you've exposed them to a lot. So what would you say to people who, because, the average person, and I know you have a lot of kids in the academy who do go to brick and mortar schools all day, and they haven't had the freedom, the luxury. And so to explore all these different things. So it takes a little bit of understanding for some parents to see the benefit of getting outside of that brick and mortar, because I think it's more than, okay, I went to the top school and I took all these AP classes and I got all these grades. I worked, all I had time to do was play tennis and do schoolwork. Pursuing interest wasn't important. A lot of people are in that mindset of their entire world revolves around loading up on AP courses and making the top AP classes, making top grades in AP classes, and making top scores for the college admissions exams. It's important, but it's not the end all.
Right. Now, this is where I really feel that you have to help your child create their particular fit as to who they are. Maybe there are some children, for example, our tennis children, correct? Do they need to do community service? Do they need to have that extra hobby? Do they need to show much leadership? Not really, because every athletic director understands the process, the sacrifice. Already you have a child who knows how to churn and burn. Yes. You're going to know that child gets on that team and they already know how to work hard and multitask and manage. Let's say you have a child who has no inclination towards sports and it's just really academically driven. They just want to excel and they want to use that as their particular entry gate presentation. Well, then you have to take it a next step further. How do you differentiate yourself so you can evaluate your entire targeted list of schools, look at their culture, look at their community, and say, look, this is the way that I'm going to fit in. This is how I'm going to demonstrate my value to your community. This is how I know I can contribute to your institution, and how in return, I'm going to be able to extract the most of what your institution has to offer. That is what impresses college admissions officers. Individuals and young people who take the initiative, who take the lead, who know how to write the emails, who know how to present themselves, and who can clearly articulate how they know they can fit into a community and what value they bring, and the fact that they've taken time to consider how that institution can also give value to them. That's important. Now, that's very challenging to do with most children, even of our generation, because they're so socially disconnected at times. They deal with their Snapchat. They're used to taking a picture of half of their face and they're sending it to God knows where. So that is where we come in as parents, as guides, as taking opportunity to find the time to have this kind of dialogue. Speak to your children in a frank and honest fashion, and share your particular story and engagement when you were applying to school, and how it is different, and how the challenges will always be there. But to stop, face challenges, take a breath together, and problem solve together. That is one thing that we have both always done with our children. And I was the lead in our household with the education. Has it been easy to virtually homeschool? Absolutely not. It is a journey that I don't think most people can endure. Have I been to places as a parent where I have not even recognized myself? Absolutely. Have I exchanged conversations and arguments with my teenagers that I would never want to repeat or even admit? Absolutely. But that is part of the journey. And that is part of demonstrating to your children that you care, that you want to be there for them. Don't shy away from that exchange. It's raw. It's real. That's what builds relationships. And that's what builds in your child's mind the opportunity to trust that you're going to be there. You will have their back. I always used to tell my children that, boys, I have your back, whatever it is. If we need to study together, if we need to figure out the outline together. I'm sorry, that's my senior probably just arriving. And be there together. And if it was beyond my scope, okay, if we don't have the budget, because we never really did after the tennis, except every dime we had, I found a way to find online tutors, or for the latest part, it was always, we are in it together, boys, until forever, ever kingdom come. And then you entitled to take your life, lead it, and make your decisions. But I never gave up. In as much as they rejected me, I still showed up. In as much as I swallowed my pride, I still came back. And it does feed into the relationship later on, because when they're young adults, they appreciate that. I mean, I had a mom who was quite different because she was stuck in a culture that she didn't understand. I didn't have that gift. My mom had no idea how to guide me through the application process. My father was a professor of economics at 4 institutions in New York City. Although he graduated from Columbia University, he had no qualms of really encouraging me to go to these state institutions because my tuition would be free. And I really wanted to go. I only applied to 3 schools, Georgetown, Columbia, and Hofstra as a backup. I did it on my own, and my parents didn't actually have the money to pay for Ivy League tuition. I found my own way back then. Grants, scholarships, student loan, and my father still bemoaned my fate because he felt I would be going to an Ivy League and I would not really get professors who would want to teach me. They would just want to publish their book, as he felt that was mostly his experience. And I still chose that journey. So I took that experience and look what I converted it to. It was a different upbringing. But the one big differential with my dad was when I needed to write a paper in economics that was really tough, that was above me. He was there. He was like, no worries, darling. We'll sit down. Let's break it down. And that's what we need to do for our children. Even though it may be beyond you, even though you can't even understand the math they're teaching, try to sit there, be next to them. I know a lot of friends in New York, for example. We all know about the New York reputation, $55,000, $65,000 an hour a year tuition. Yes. Children graduate and are straight to Harvard. I have a friend, a dear friend. She cannot sit down to do one thing with her children. They're very self-motivated. They go to top schools in the city. And she still finds that way to be there for her children. If she can't help her Ben in a certain project, but she's still there. You're still there in heart and mind and spirit. And those children flourish. I think that's the big differential. Whether your child goes to brick and mortar, whether we all work full time, and I always owned a wine store and virtually schooled and had to spread the children in 3 different directions. You still want to show that you're there. Even if it's not a large amount of quality time, make it quantity. Make it in, in the quality of that quantity that you give them. And I think that's how you align their storyboard with their strengths, with their weaknesses. You create the passion because they see your passion. And then I give them the gift to find that fit for them. Everything is finding something that reciprocally is a relationship. And if you can role model that relationship, they'll really grow into that mindset. I really believe that.
So one last question. When I talk to a lot of people, they say that, especially now that everyone's kind of in the house all the time. And, with my kids, we've homeschooled. We've homeschooled since the beginning. And so they are not accustomed to kind of, Snapchat, TikTok. They don't have any of that. They're used to going outside and playing. So it's been confining, but not too bad because they're used to being able to occupy their time not on electronics. But what I hear a lot from parents is that they don't know what, their kid isn't interested in anything. And, all they're interested in is video games. And so how do I get my kid interested in something other than video games? What do you say?
You have to be interested in it. So with my children, when you homeschool, I think you have a little bit more control, correct? And my children, okay, I was the busybody mom, right? Very easy in New York. I could have an art class 2 blocks away from my class, a guitar class came over. I've always been a doer, but I always did things with the children. So, for example, my children are avid Lego builders. And to this day, every move that we've made, even statewide, interstate, we've moved like 10 tables of different cities. And to this day, my children are 19, 18, and 15. We still go to the Lego store, and I'm not allowed to go in with them because they're still buying sets to build. And they have created an entire city that is 10 tables long, and then they have different themes in other rooms in our basement. But they didn't build Legos by themselves. I also participated in anything that they were interested. I participated. Now, I've never gamed with them because I just don't appreciate it. I don't enjoy it. But I try to do everything with them in any of their interests. If you want them to go outside and play, go outside and play with them. Find your child in yourself as you with your children. It's a joy to be free-spirited. Even with teenagers, we watch movies. We let them select the movies. Now, I find at times that the things that you can do in Atlanta, are a bit limited because we don't have access, and naturally in our COVID times, even more so. But for example, I love for opera. I have medopera.org online. Get an Apple TV. There are so many things on Apple TV that you can share. There are museum virtual trips that you can take right now. Every museum in the world, you can take a virtual trip. The Metropolitan Museum has actually a concert night tonight at 5 p.m. They also have story time that you can subscribe to if you follow the Metropolitan Museum. So a lot of things for different age groups that I would do. For little ones, it's easy. Assert yourself. If they want to play outside in the sandbox, if they want to go outside and build a house, do that with them. This is where I'm talking about the role modeling, because children also neurologically, when you study how their functioning works in terms of acquiring interest for different skill sets, they learn by modeling and repeating what they see. So participation is very much a key. Teenagers, a little bit different. If your teenager is already inclined or by habit or by framework to be cocooned in the virtual world, find a way to participate in that virtual world in some form or fashion. I've never gone as far as trying to learn how to game with them, because I never took an interest and my husband never took an interest. But if that's the only thing your child wants to do, can do, find a way to sit in there and learn how to do it. Participate with them as much as possible. You know, with my children, I learned how to draw. You know, we draw together. My two boys, actually, who are still playing guitar, I love music. Yesterday, they asked me if I would be the drummer in their band. So we're going to go buy me my electric set of drums. I am so excited because I bought myself one little drum, and I play the piano. I've forgotten after a long time. I was going to learn the guitar, but I don't think they need a guitar. So I just got invited, and they're 18 and 15. So today I'm going to be taken to the guitar center and I'm buying my set of drums. You can find joy in that. Also, playing cards is phenomenal for teenagers. Teenagers love to play cards. They have so many things. You can teach them bridge, a very engaging game. I mean, I'm really reaching out to the stars, but there's so many things that we can take the initiative. And if you get rejected, it doesn't matter. Come back the next day.
Because you have to do that with the tweens and the teens.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid of rejection. That is what children are supposed to do. They're supposed to reject us. And what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to come back and nag ourselves back in. I don't know if anyone knows. I don't know if you ever heard of Byron Katie.
No.
Okay. She's a phenomenal author that everyone should research. She has this book called The Work. Byron Katie, spelled Byron. Byron Katie. She has this phenomenal story about how she basically put herself into a mental institution. She was a horrible mom. Her children rejected her. She had a lot of serious emotional issues. And when she went into this mental institution, that was the only place that she could really kind of place herself to figure herself out. She realized that a lot of her own trauma and her trauma with her children is that, you know, she would become fixated on things she wanted her children to do that were not aligned with her. And it was really her that loved to do that. So, for example, she said, I was fixated with picking up the socks. I had to tell my children, they were slobs, they left everything. I was like, pick up your socks, clean up after yourself. Your room is horrible. But she realized that it was she who wanted to really pick up the socks. So when she went into the room, she said, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to come in here and do it with you, do it for you. And every day I'm going to be back until you see the value in it. And she realized that this is what she loved to do, but her love for picking up the socks was destroying her relationship with her children because they were viewing her as nagging, as imposing, as mean, as angry, as heartless. And this is where I get my phrase, which is her phrase, live it to love it. If that's what you love, then you have to live it. And that's what you have to find with your children. Things that you can share with them. And if they reject you, they say, this is not something I'm supposed to share with you. You go, why not? Now, in her work, she has this 4-step question process that is really amazing because children think, for example, you're too nagging. You bother me too much. You demand too much of me. And there's this 4-step process of inquiries where at the end of the day, you come to this conclusion that, by the way, parents are supposed to be demanding. Right? Live it and love it. And you are supposed to basically reject me, live it and love it. This is where we are in the phase of raising one another, right? Our children are our teachers. We are our children's teachers. So take that experience, and as raw and as ugly as you may see it, use that to build love. Because that is love. I mean, we're not meant to be our children's friends. We're not meant to allow our children to do whatever they want to do. We're here to guide them, and we're not perfect. We don't get a manual. They don't have a manual. But we all want to end up in a place that benefits them, correct?
Yes.
And I tell my children, I've already lived my life, and I'm waiting to relive a second life after I'm basically done helping you with yours, which is going to be when you're 25. They're like, 25? I go, yes, because by the time you're 25, you earn your own money, you have your own place, you can make your own decisions, and you can face your own consequences. Until then, I'm going to be there.
I love that.
So there's another book that's very interesting also. Has anyone heard of The 5 Languages of Love?
I have.
Have you heard of that book?
Yes, I have.
Yes. It's such an amazing book, and they have one for teens. It's so easy to do it for the little ones, correct? The 5 Languages of Love. If you take that exercise too, you can figure out what your teen needs. Everyone wants to be loved in a different way. And a lot of times as parents, we may want to love the way that we want to get loved, correct? So for me, I'm acts of service.
Right.
I need an act of service. You don't need to buy me anything. I don't need words of adulation. I know I'm doing a great job. I'm type A. I'm type A, okay? And I didn't get type A children, even though they've ended up in like a type A pathway. But I think that was just despite themselves because they have a type A mom. But those are the things that I really used as my anchors through all my tears. There were a lot of tears through all my tribulations, through all the hurt. Our children hurt our feelings.
Yeah.
They do. I just had that last night with one of my sons, and then he apologized, and I apologized to him. But that's love, being able to acknowledge those mistakes, those hurts, those inadequacies, and being able to take them through, once again, to go back through their passion, through their storyboard. How do they want to present themselves? Who are they? They should be able to want to own who they are when they're in senior year. And that doesn't start by looking around and seeing, oh my, what did I do in 11th grade?
Yes.
It starts when you're in middle school, because that's when we call it in South America, the donkey phase. They go into their donkey phase, right? They go into their self-doubt. Who am I? Who's my mom? They start seeing your imperfections. They start judging, what do they want to keep? What do they want to throw away? Be so prepared for that and own that. And want to experience that with them. And that makes them more comfortable to understand that if they have self-doubt about themselves, imperfections about themselves, criticism from the outside world about themselves, that you're in it together and that no one is perfect. And I think that helps them deal with the bullies. I mean, we've had so much of that even through tennis.
Sure.
It's very important. So like you and I, we talked about our takeaways.
Yes.
Passion. Find passion with your children. Be with them, play with them, role model with them, get rejected by them, reject them back if you need to, but be there. Be there. It's messy, and you have to live in and love that. Check out Byron Katie. And then find a storyboard. Find a storyboard for them. Find a storyboard for yourself. I even did that with my senior. I said, William, you're in West Point next year. You have to create your storyboard for like the next 4 years, because he's older, right? So when they were little, I did the storyboard for the school year. For William, I'm going to try to do it for the next 4 years or for the next year, because when you put it out there, it's the law of attraction, correct? I really believe in that. That's very spiritual, and some people may shy away from that. But the law of attraction breeds passion, breeds spirit. And I think in that way, you're able to guide your child to find the fit that they deserve, that they have earned. And it's not a default, and it's not a mistake. And like you said before, it's not a road to nowhere. And instead, it's a road of being now here. It's not nowhere. It's being now here. And that's important to teach our children.
I love that. And so funny you mentioned that. I try to take the kids bike riding since we can't go anywhere. At least we can get some exercise, some good cardio. And we've gone from just around the neighborhood. Now we're going miles and miles. And every single time I say, all right, guys, let's go bike riding. Grouse, 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 grouse. But they get on the bikes and we go. And of course they always have a good time. My husband
Absolutely.
my husband always asks, do you guys want to go bike riding? No. Okay. And then they don't go. And I'm like, you can't ask them.
I agree. I never let my children tell me that they didn't like something. I would always say it's a no thank you bite or a no thank you try, right? Just try it once, right? No thank you bites, no thank you try. And that's, for example, like with my youngest. I could never in my dreams get out there on the tennis court and play tennis with him. But how much can I share with my poor son? I homeschool him. It's not the greatest thing in life to just share your relationship homeschooling. And I'm teaching algebra. Okay, come on, Joseph, because he's on the court 6 hours a day. The child travels like a business salesman. It's grueling. And every night at 8:00, I'm like, Joseph, we have to do this math exam that we haven't taken since the last summer course. This is how bad it can get, right?
Yes.
I'm like, Jojo, please, let's do this. We were doing linear equations yesterday. Now I'm in like my multiple years of linear equations. I'm trying to find a way to have fun with it. I'm with the Apple TV, screening my iPad. I'm logged in to show my PC onto his computer. And we're just sitting about 4 feet away from one another. Mm-hmm. But this is my way of trying to make it fun. Look at the big screen. Half the time I'm asking him if he's falling asleep on me because I can't get the answer of 3 minus 0 in the numerator of the slope of y equals mx plus b. And he's like, arguing, but it's okay. I have to live it and I love it.
It's okay.
But that's how you find it. Now imagine me as a mom. That's all I share with my son. I mean, that's grueling, right?
Yes, it is.
I feed him. I put him to bed. I try to do yoga with him. I massage him and I teach him. How much of that is an existence? People would be aghast with my existence. But you know what I do is when he plays tennis, I try to be the photographer. I'm going to collect memories. And this is where my children hate me. I'm just trying to collect memories, boys, because when we're old, that's all we have in our dying day, correct?
Yes.
And hopefully I tell them that I don't have Alzheimer's and I don't recognize you. And you can come with a picture and say, hey, Mom, I actually belong to you. But that's it out of life, everybody. We need also our takeaway as parents.
Yeah.
So take that with you. And I think that the greatest gift we have in life, put our careers aside. Self-care, what is self-care? I don't even know what self-care is. I know I'm going to get it sometime, but self-care is loving ourselves. It's not always the best day in the world. It's a challenge. It's an uphill battle. But our children are our legacy. It is our gift to the world. If we can bring a child into adulthood to fit into a community, to fit into your society, to fit into your family in a progressive, spiritual, open-minded way, who finds life as an opportunity, you have knocked it out of the ballpark. And everything else in between is just a fluff in the story.
And very few things are the end of the world. I thank you so much, Barbara. As always, I love talking to you. I could sit here and talk to you for another 2 hours, but thank you so much. And if people want to get in touch with you,
please, you can share my contact information. I'm more than happy to share my story. I have lived a very outlier life. If anyone thinks that they are having a bad day, please call me or contact Judy. Any topic. I probably have surpassed the gruesomeness of that day. I've lived through a lot. With the framework of homeschooling and virtually homeschooling and tennis coaches and the divas of tennis coaches, and even how adults can influence your children's mindset and framework, and having to unravel that and bringing your child back to balance. I've gone through a lot of journeys, so we just have to stick together. You're amazing, Judy. I think that what you offer and the support you do for everyone, you're a great resource, and I'm wishing you only the best.
And if you're anywhere in the Southeast, Windward Tennis Academy is an awesome place to train. That's actually how I met Barbara, because my daughter is at Windward, and so I'll put that in the links as well, so that if you are interested in some top tennis training, check out her tennis academy in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Absolutely. Bye, Judy. So and once again, we surpassed our 30-minute time limit. That's good. I hope everyone liked the information. Bye, everybody. Bye.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to hear more, make sure you subscribe. And also, you can reach me at www.judysarden.com/Ivy League Road. If you'd like to discuss how we can help you strategically plan for your middle and high school student, contact us at sardenquestions@gmail.com.